Hello and welcome to Habits of Influence, a podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs, where we discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly side of being an entrepreneur. And we help you build a movement where others wish to follow. Today, we have Emily Kay joining us, who is an amazing, phenomenal tattoo artist who I've been following for years and years and years. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast, Emily. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. So just to get started, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about you, what got you into tattooing, maybe some of the things that you enjoy most about it.
Okay, so I've been tattooing since 2011. I got into it after going to college. I was in college for art, and I also did entrepreneurship and business. And I was really not, I was in my 20s, so very not motivated. If I could go back, I probably wouldn't do college again, but I got kind of bored with it. So once I started getting tattooed myself, I started researching what it would take to become a tattoo artist, because obviously I thought that it was really cool and it was a way to be able to do art every day, which I was definitely into. So I researched and found a way to get licensed in Oregon. It's actually really difficult in Oregon to become a tattooer. Now they have tattoo schools. Back then they didn't, they might have had like one or two of these, but you really have to get licensed through an approved supervisor that the state, the health licensing agency approves. So I did that. And after that, I went to Vertigo Tattoo, which I'm still at now. And I did about a year apprenticeship, I would say, where I tattooed a lot of my friends and I built up clientele doing walk-ins. And yeah, I've been doing it ever since. I think there's a lot to be said about being your own boss. Like, I think about going and working a regular job now, and I don't think I could do it. Even if I was paid more money, even if I had benefits, which I don't now, like being a tattoo artist, you have to pay for your health insurance, dental, all that stuff. Like it's a pain, but I don't think I could go back and work for somebody else now, because the ability to make your own schedule, be in charge of your own clientele, being able to fire people, being able to tell people to F off or like to get away from me. Oh my gosh. It's a luxury, definitely. And I don't think I could ever go back to, I worked retail going through college and right after high school and stuff. And then of course, before that, like fast food. So I don't think I could go back because of that. That's the one thing I love the most about this job.
And it's funny you mentioned the being the own boss, and even if there was more money, because I think sometimes for us as entrepreneurs, it's not always about the money. And I always see people, oh, you don't want to work 40 hours for somebody else, but you'll work 80 hours for yourself to make the same or less money. And it is that autonomy that if I don't want to show up today, I don't have to. Or if you want to fire a client, you can. When you're working for somebody else, there is a code that you have to follow. You have to follow their rules. You have to follow their expectations. You have to do their way. And when you're your own boss, and especially in your industry, it's very liberating, right? You can choose who you work with. You can choose who not to work with. And you, from what I know, you're pretty sought after. You're months out booking. If I want to book with you now, it's going to be a few months before I get in to see you.
Usually it's about 3 months or so. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's a great problem to have, right? It's yes. You have stuff. And I'm sure it didn't come easy. Like you said, when you first started out, you didn't just have people flocking through your doors.
Nope, not at all. No, I definitely paid my dues with $50 tattoos. I did that for a long time. I did a lot of special, I did free tattoos for a long time. And I'm really fortunate to have a lot of friends who, when I was first starting out, they just did not care. They were just like, yeah, do whatever you want. And, of course I didn't charge them for it. And then years later, I had to be like, let me cover that up, because that's not, that looks really bad. So let's cover that up. And I think I've covered the majority of it up now, which is great. But
I don't want my name associated with that one.
Yeah, exactly. Or don't tell people that I did that one if you don't let me cover it up,
That's so funny. And I would assume, I could be wrong, that you've probably developed some great relationships along the way.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And those people that you were doing those $50 tattoos for, or the people who you were doing freebie tattoos for, I'm sure you've tattooed them more than once.
Yes, definitely. There's some that I have never seen again, definitely. But yeah, I mean, I've met. I mean, even today, like today, I'm tattooing my client Teresa, who has been coming to me, man, since I would say probably 2013, and she's running out of space. Like I see her at least once a month, and I mean, she's got her neck left, I think, but everything else is pretty much done. We're actually going into old stuff today to kind of add little tiny things here and there. So,
Well, you just brought up a couple things that popped in my mind when you were talking. And one, just the tattoo experience in general. As an artist, tattooing is so different. If I have a pen and paper and I have a hard surface, it's I could draw or whatever. But once you start dealing with skin and people's bodies, and you have muscle, you've got fat, you have to, it's a whole different modality.
yes.
And when you're tattooing, you can't erase a mistake. You can't just say, "Oh, here, let me erase this."
Yeah.
It's so how do you handle some of those things?
Honestly, when people say that, it's hard to describe because it takes years to fully understand all of these things. You're not only like dealing with the art aspect, you're dealing with dermatology, cross contamination, age of skin, the quality of the skin, if someone's a smoker versus not a smoker. I mean, there's so many things. There's a lot to it. But surprisingly, it's really hard to mess up a tattoo beyond repair if you know what you're doing. And if you know the basics, like if you know machine settings and basic design, it's really hard to mess something up beyond repair. I mean, unless you misspell something, which I posted the other day. Like I misspell stuff all of the time. I'm an artist. I'm not an English major. So learned the hard way with that. I've definitely misspelled things, and I've learned to put that back on the client to be like, you need to make sure that this is right because I don't know, or make sure that this kid's birth date is right because sometimes dads or other parents will come in and get a birth date wrong. But it's not unfixable. It's if you build that confidence and you have experience with all those different types of things, it's pretty easy to fix stuff.
That's awesome. And one of the things I always love, and this is just because people have this perception of a tattoo artist, right? They're like, "Oh, you're making all this money and you're just doing it," but people don't. There's a whole perceived value. It's people don't realize this is an art piece that's going to be with you literally forever. It's your time. It's not like you're just going to a third grader and saying, "Draw me a picture." You're going back and forth with consultations. You're going, you have to create something that's going to live on this person for years to come. And like you said, there's so many different things with the settings, and I think that's the big point that many people don't think of, especially young people. They just say, "Oh, I want to get a tattoo," and they'll go. I think what's the correct term, like a scratcher or something, goes out in the garage
Yeah.
and just does their own stuff. They're not licensed. They don't have their insurance. They haven't studied. They bought a
Hmm.
tattoo gun, or the old school poker with Indian ink, and
Yep.
that kind of thing. And there's so much more to tattooing than people actually think about.
Oh yeah, there's a lot, and it really blows my mind. I really appreciate the experience of working in a walk-in shop where I got to really deal with all sorts of clients. I've dealt with those young kids who come in, just want a quick tattoo, don't want to spend any money, all the way up to people who are willing to, spend thousands on a back piece or sleeve work or something. But there's a large percentage of people that it blows my mind that like are willing to spend 30 to $90,000 on a car that is depreciating in value, that is temporary. But I don't want to say they kind of complain about the price. Like they're not interested in investing in their own body, or they go something not monetary, like they go work out, they work on their body, their physique, they're really into looking good, but they go to somebody out of their garage to get a tattoo because they don't want to wait or pay the price of a licensed experienced professional. It's an interesting paradigm there.
It really is, and it's all that perceived value stuff. And like I said, I've been following you for years, so I love your work. I am dying to get on your books one of these days. We need to just after this interview, we need to just plan something where I can come in
Yeah.
and see you
Yeah.
and do it. And going off of that, because we on this podcast, we really like to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think there's so many misperceptions about the tattoo industry. And I'm sure I would assume you got hit pretty hard during 2020, just like we did in our business with,
Mhm.
not being able to perform or not being able to welcome clients because of standards, whatever. What would you say are some of the like myths or some of the stuff that you really can't stand hearing about your industry, or what is the bad and the ugly part?
So let me think about this. I think it's hard for me to step outside of the industry and think about like the misconceptions that like other people see. But I think I always think about like people who think like tattooers are drug addicts or in a biker gang or some other type of gang, you
Prison.
know, prison or things of that nature. And it has shifted so much in America specifically over the past, from the beginning, that now it's really it's its own art form of itself, and it's actually kind of a high class art form. It's not low class and dirty and gritty. I mean, there definitely is that portion of it, but there is definitely still a stigma, especially with the older generation. If they see me heavily tattooed or know that I'm a tattoo artist, you can tell that they have kind of this conception of, oh, dirty, gritty. When I'm a mom, I pride myself on being professional and clean and compassionate and connecting with other people. And it's kind of the opposite of what I think the most of the older generation. I think nowadays it's like you go to Fred Meyer and most people that work there are tattooed, so it's more accepted with the people who are in the working class nowadays.
And it's funny you brought that because it made me think of way back when I first moved to Washington. So when I left Florida, I was working in a casino. It was a tribal casino, and having a native background, I got long hair, right?
Mhm.
It's part of who I am. I do have some ink work. There's stuff that I've got. And when I first moved out here, I moved to Washington in 2002. So 03, I was kind of looking for work before I started my business. And I mean, I started the business, but it was like while I was building, I was trying to find other revenue, like guaranteed income, so to say. And I went to so many different places. Like Coca-Cola wouldn't hire me because I had long hair. They wanted me to cut my hair for $10 an hour.
Wow.
A casino, I went to a local casino. It wasn't a tribal casino. And for a manager, they only wanted to pay me $500 a week. And I had to cut my hair. And I'm like, no, this is my culture. This is who I am. They're like, well, we're not going to hire you. I'm like, peace out. Because I was making more than triple that just in tips where I came from. I'm like,
Yeah.
no. So I ended up taking a job at Blockbuster back when there were Blockbusters. And
Yeah.
I took a job for $7.50 an hour just to get a job. So I had some revenue coming in. And I went into teaching and all this other stuff, but it was 20 years ago, a lot different. Like you could not find a
Wow.
job if you had ink or if you had long hair or as a guy, and it's great to see that perception change. And I love there's an image. I wish I would have pulled it up before or done a screen share. And I love it from a tattoo perspective because it was like two lions and one was like $100 tattoo and it showed like a
Yeah.
stick, like a little drawn like cartoon lion. Then like this dollar amount tattoo and it had like this growly face and this really well detailed. And
Yeah.
it's true. You get what you pay for, especially in your industry.
To a certain extent, yeah, definitely. Good tattoos aren't cheap, and cheap tattoos aren't good.
Yeah. What would you say? I mean, if there are like from your industry, what would you say are some of the struggles or some of the things you've had to overcome, or what is the ugly side of the tattoo industry aside from the perception of the grit or the like you said, low class thing? What are some other things you've had to overcome or struggles or whatever misconceptions? What's the ugly? Tell me the ugly.
Okay. Well, there's a lot, but it's a very male dominated industry. There's two things that I'll say. The first thing is working with other artists. It's very difficult to, I feel like artists and people who are their own boss are very strong personalities. So working with in a shop, when we had walk-ins and we had other artists that was difficult because my husband and I, we're sober. We don't, I mean, we drink once in a while, like once in a great while, like, but we don't smoke weed. We don't do drugs. We don't go out and party. That is just not how we are. And in a lot of these shop bro atmospheres, that's kind of the culture. And when we have artists in our shop who, you know, like in Oregon here and Washington, I think, it's legal. Like this stuff is legal. So it's very, for me, it was very difficult to be working alongside people who would have a walk-in client, have a new client in their chair and take a break, go outside and smoke weed. That bothers the crap out of me. The unprofessionalism of that. And a lot of clients wouldn't care. They would not care, and that's fine. But for me, oh my gosh, it would just drive me insane to be working around these people who would have no regard for professionalism or the fact that you are doing a permanent procedure on someone. And the fact that you are going and getting in an altered state, I don't give a crap if it's illegal or if it's legal or if it's your medication. I don't care. Like you can take an hour out of your day to be sober and straight, drink some coffee, whatever you have to do, and give somebody a quality piece of art that they're going to have on their body for the rest of their life. That's number one. And just dealing with the drama and all that kind of stuff, you know, being in the shop. That's why we have no artists right now. Our last artist, she's amazing. I love her. Her name is Lisa. She's now at her own studio in Washington. She was the best case scenario. She was great, like very like-minded, but it was very, very hard to find. And eventually those people are going to open up their own place, you know? So we've learned that it is best for my husband and I to just be us ourselves. And we've been very, very happy doing that. Anyway, the second thing that like for me is I'm really passionate about as well is being a tattooer and like working. I mean, I up until Elisa, I had only worked with men, and there's this thing where if you're a female and you are busy or successful in a shop, for me at least, and I mean other women tattooers who I've communicated with, it's like, oh, you're only busy because you're a chick. You're only busy because, you know, they want to sleep with you, or you have tits, so you're busier. And that was so offensive because I worked harder than these guys did. I'm not smoking weed. I'm not out like I'm literally going home and drawing and trying to better my craft, but they're telling me that I'm only busy because I'm a female. Like that is so frustrating in that case scenario. But at the same time, I'm kind of thankful because it really pushed me even harder. It's like, you know, just give them the middle finger and work even harder and take that money to be like, well, there's a reason why people don't want to get tattooed by you.
Yeah. And I'm really glad you brought that up, and not because of the podcast, but in general as a business mindset. There are people who hustle and people who make excuses. And it doesn't matter if you're male or female. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter your upbringing. It matters your internal grit that I'm going to be successful. And you said something that really resonated with me because that's how I am. You tell me I can't do something, it's getting done better than anybody else will ever do it because I am now pissed off that you think I can't. So,
Yeah.
so if you think I can't do something, I'm going to do it better than anybody else because that's who I am.
Well, and for me, like, it also made me be like, I don't know how to describe this. This is a weird thing in the way that I run my business. But like, you know, when my peers and the people that I looked up to and the people that I worked with started saying that kind of stuff, I was also like, yeah, I'm going to work harder. And I'm going to use my appearance and my sexuality to my benefit. Like, if you think that that's the only reason that I am getting business, I don't know. It's a real big, like, just a F you that I want to say to them, basically. It's like, why should I, like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to not wear makeup? Do you not want me to completely change the person that I am? Do you want me to cover up my body? because you're insecure that that's making me money. And for me, it was like, no, I'm not, I'm going to be myself. I love doing makeup. I love doing my hair. I'm a girl. I'm a woman. I am going to own that even harder now because you are telling me that I should be ashamed of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, no, and
Yeah.
like I said, I've seen your work. I have followed your work for years, and I absolutely love your work.
Thank you.
I think I've told you that from day one when I first met you. I'm like, I love this piece or I love this work. And whenever you
Yes.
post something, whether it's, I don't know if it's, it used to be on Facebook. I think you do more Instagram now. Am I correct with that?
Yeah. I have a lot of hangups with Facebook now, but yeah, mostly on Instagram.
I had a lot of hangups with them when my Facebook account got hacked and shut down, and I lost my business pages. So I'm kind of
Yeah.
mad at Facebook as well.
Well, they
But
own Instagram now too. So I
I know.
mean,
Well, that's what happened was my Facebook business account got shut down. My Instagram got shut down. My WhatsApp got shut down. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? And that was September. So, I mean, I'm a little over it now, but I was livid. And
yes.
at that point in time, my mom, the week that happened was with my mom had a triple bypass surgery. And that was how we communicated through Facebook Messenger. I didn't have an account. I was like, and I created a new account because she thought I was spamming her. She thought it was a fake account. So
Oh,
it was crazy. So yeah, I feel you on the Facebook thing. But no, your
yeah.
art is amazing. You are an amazing person.
Thank you.
I've watched you, and I think I remember when you got married. I remember having your baby, and it was like it's been really fun watching you grow as an artist and as a person, and just seeing your life develop. I don't know when we connected, but it's been quite a while.
Yeah,
So it's just been great, and I love everything that you're doing, what you're putting out there, and I'm glad you shared that because I think people need to hear. We live in such a society where it's like this whole women's lib and this and that, but we don't realize there's still a lot of that sexism stuff that's happening. And if you're a woman, you're not as good. Or I know the co-host of this podcast, Magdalena, she's experienced some of that in the coaching world. If you're not a male, you're not as valuable, even though she is brilliant and has all this stuff. And it's like we're tired of the bullshit. Excuse my language. We're tired of that mentality of, oh, what gender you are determines your worth, and that's garbage. It really is.
definitely.
So I'm glad that you brought that up. So on that, if you were to give advice, and not necessarily your industry specific as a tattoo artist, but you can tap in on that. What would you say to somebody who's just starting their business, or maybe a new female entrepreneur? What kind of advice would you give them?
I would say for me, it's really easy to kind of be really worried about what other people are thinking of me, especially in this day and age, like when the majority of stuff is online. Even if you're doing like a service where you're one-on-one with people, you're going to be promoting online, you're going to be showcasing your work online, or if you're opening your own restaurant, a lot of it's based on reviews and things like that. So it's very easy to fall into that trap of believing what other people say about you. I just watched this, man, I wish I remembered his name. I watched TED Talks a lot, and I watched one yesterday, and he said, we will never rise above the opinion that we have about ourselves. And it's like, for me, when I hear other people either talk crap about me or be like, oh no, you shouldn't be doing that, or oh God, it's so cringe when people like post selfies or like toot their own horn or whatever on the internet. I internalize that a little bit, and I get like kind of like, man, no, I'm doing too much, I'm being too loud, I'm being too self-absorbed. But like, when I heard that yesterday, it's like, you really have to have the highest opinion of yourself. I mean, obviously it's good to be well balanced and objective, but you should really be your biggest cheerleader because you're the person who is running your business. And if you're going to let all of that negativity and other people's perspective creep in, it's only inhibiting you. It's only hurting you. It's not hurting them. It's not making them happier. It's not making them it doesn't matter about them. It really just is you building your own business, and you have to start your opinion of yourself way high so that you can grow and have sustained energy to keep going. Because if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to feel like crap a lot of the time. And you
It's
don't need
true.
your being your own enemy. And you have to love yourself, really. You have to be the type of person that you want to see more of. Just show up for yourself every day.
Yeah, it's funny when you were talking, it made me think of a couple things, which was not beating ourselves up. It's really easy to do that. The world is going to knock us down. We're going to get hit from, like you said, people's perceptions, people's opinions. We don't need to add to that.
No.
And I always like to refer to it as tuning out the noise. There's a lot of noise, and being very selective of what we hear and what we choose to take part of. And I always tell people to soar so high that you can't hear the opinions of other people.
Yeah.
Fly up there, be your person, put yourself up, and not putting yourself on a pedestal where you think you're better than anybody, but really, I've shared this with other people as well, and I've shared on this podcast probably a few times as well. Find people that you value their opinion and listen to them.
Yes.
Find people who are where you want to be, and those are the people you listen to. Everyone's going to have a story. Everyone's going to have something negative to say, why you can't do it, why you're not good enough, why it's not the right thing, but unless they're doing it, they have no opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to take success advice from or financial advice from somebody who doesn't know how to manage money.
Totally. Yeah.
I'm not going to take business advice from somebody who's never run a business.
Yeah.
And I think we have to be very selective about who we're listening to and what we're taking. And I love TED Talks as well. And when we stop the recording, maybe we could brainstorm and chat a little bit about some of those. But I'm really glad you brought that up. And one thing that I want to go back to that I didn't think of, I thought of it when we were talking and then I spaced it. Having other tattoo artists in your shop. I want to go back to that for a second, because you mentioned like them going out and smoking weed or something. Where does that fall on you as far as a liability as a shop owner? If somebody goes and smokes weed or gets, drinks or something on their break, even though it's legal, does that affect you as a business owner under your liability?
Oh, I'm sure it would. I hope I never have to find out. I mean, for me, if I was a client in the chair, I don't know, I'd be a total Karen about that, but
I wouldn't accept it.
yeah, thankfully we've never been in that case scenario, and we've burnt bridges with a lot of tattooers being like, you can't do drugs when you're here. That's just not going to happen. And most of them don't like that. So they leave, but that's for the best,
So as somebody, if somebody was listening to this podcast right now, and I'm going totally off the mark about business, but if I was looking for a tattoo shop,
Mhm.
what are things that I should look for? Would it be appropriate to ask the question of, hey, are the artists here, drug and alcohol free? Like what should I look for?
I think that's definitely something you should ask, and you should find as close, like-minded people. If you do smoke weed and you like to smoke weed and you think that if it's just part of who you are, I'm talking a lot of crap about people that smoke weed, but like, I have friends that do this. I have people that I respect and that I look up to who do this, and that's totally fine. Like, that's their life. It's just not how I want to run my business. But if you're one of those people that do like to run business like that, and that's what you want to do, find like-minded people. Find a shop that's like-minded. You're going to be able to stay there longer. You're going to have way less drama. You're going to be happier in the long run if you surround yourself with people who are like-minded. If you're sober, ask them if they're sober. If what their policy is on that kind of stuff and their outlook. And do your best to find people who resonate with you.
Stay away from shady shit.
Yes.
Doesn't matter what industry you're in. Stay away from shady, right?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Now, so I know you're do you ever travel at all or no? Just everything's local, right?
I used to travel. My husband and I, we've done the Philly convention. We did one year. I hate Philly. I'm never going back there. It was February, so I'll say that with that in mind. It was cold, and the place where the convention was, they made us stand. All the artists had to stand up outside for like hours with all of our stuff. It was horrible. So Philly, I'm done with Philly. That's like the furthest away that I've traveled for a convention. I've done local conventions. I've done the Evergreen show, which is really nice. I've done the Portland expos quite a bit, but it's so funny. I don't know. I feel like tattooers are gonna see this and be like, wow, she's a friggin' bitch. But I am, okay? That's just me. I
You're
my
not a
friend
bitch. You have high standards. It's different.
it's yeah, and I mean, I say all this stuff, but like if you're a tattooer or a person who does enjoy this stuff, I'm not gonna sit there and be mean to you or like shun you because you're a weed smoker or you like to do conventions. Like that's not the type of person that I am. I appreciate having diverse people around me, definitely. My friend Thea, who's a tattoo artist in California, she posted this thing. It was a TikTok video. She posted this thing the other day, and it said, and she wrote over the top of this, and she was like, "I would rather brush my teeth with steel wool than to attend a convention again." And I was like, "Oh my god, thank God somebody said that because that's how I feel." I am so not the type of person who likes to be in a convention. I just don't. It's traveling with all of your stuff is a nightmare. Hearing people when there's loud music and a lot of people talking is stressful. I don't feel like I'm in my element and that I can give clients the best quality product. And I feel like I have to drink. Like everybody around is drinking, smoking, partying, and I feel like I have to just drink in order to survive them. So I'm not going to be doing conventions anytime ever again that I know of. I mean, maybe when I'm older and my kids are grown, but right now I just had my second daughter 5 months ago, so it's family time right now.
And it's great to be able to take that opportunity, and it's beautiful that you and your husband work together, and you have the shop together, and you can kind of balance out and all
Yeah.
that fun stuff. Is there anything else that you would like to say, about you, about your business, about new entrepreneurs, about anything before we kind of wrap up?
I don't think so. I mean, I could keep talking about this stuff forever. I'm really passionate about it. Oh, well, I will say this. We were talking about like the people that you surround yourself with as far as being like, positive, supportive people and stuff like that. There's something very scary about starting out as an entrepreneur or elevating yourself as an entrepreneur, like you are branching out into new things, or even just trying to better yourself in whatever craft or thing you're doing. It's really kind of scary because there's these people, you have your safety net baseline of people around you who you're familiar with, you're comfortable with, and you really have to be okay with losing all of those people. It's very lonely being a entrepreneur or even just someone who's trying to better themselves when you have friends around you who are not interested in those things. I mean, I feel like I've lost the majority of my friends. I really only have like two or three close friends, and that's including my husband in my life. Because in order to evolve and grow, you kind of have to shed this stuff. And it doesn't mean like don't ever talk to these people again, but it's like you gotta go a different direction. And if they want to meet you when you're there later, then that's beautiful. But, don't be afraid to be alone because once you start setting your compass in the direction that you want to go, there's people on the other side. There's more people. It's not like you're going to be alone forever. And the people that you're going to network with and come in contact with are going to be better suited towards your goals and your ambitions than the people that are in your past.
That's really solid, and I love that you brought that up because it is a lonely journey, and we do sometimes outgrow people, and not intentionally. It's just what happens. We do outgrow people, and then we grow into new people and new relationships and new mindsets. And I think life is ever evolving, and when
Yeah.
we can do that, um and like you said, you're not cutting people out, or you're not saying I'm never going to talk to you again. It's just you're moving in a different direction, and sometimes you're going this way and somebody else is going that way, or you'll still pick up a phone and say hello every now and then, and you might grab a cup of coffee or lunch, but they don't need to be your bestie and hanging out 24/7. And
Right.
it does get lonely, and sometimes it gets frustrating, but that's
Mhm.
that's that's really great. How can people, if they want to contact you, how can people find you?
So my website is the shop site. So it's vertigotattoopdx.com. I am most active on Instagram, Emily K Tattoo on Instagram. Email's the best way to get a hold of me. DMs on Instagram are great. Yeah, I try to reach back out to everybody. Facebook is, I set it and forget it. So Facebook Messenger isn't the best. But yeah, anyway you can, website, email,
And
Instagram.
we'll make sure all your contact information is posted, a link to your website, all that. And then thank you so much for being a guest today. Those of you that are listening, thanks you for tuning in. And remember, we post something once a week, every week on, I don't forget what day it is. I think it's Wednesdays. And click the notification bell to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check us out at habitsofinfluence.com. And we look forward to seeing everybody again next week.